We are down to our final two speakers before we hear once again from this year's poet, Karma Waltonen. Erica Lee is an organizer, a state worker, a caregiver, and proud fifth-generation Sacramentian. She's also an atheist that recently ran for Congress. Like many of us, she knows what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck, especially if you're a drag queen, navigate our broken healthcare system, all while supporting her parents and fighting for change. It's not often that you have an out atheist running for a legislative position, and it's especially rare to see that on a national level. Round of applause for Erica Lee, everybody. Oh, you can get louder than that. Come on.
We're tired. I'm tired. Breaker, breaker, can you hear me? Okay. The urge to start singing Journey with a microphone in my face. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here today and for this incredible opportunity to speak at the 24th Annual Freethought Day. It's an honor to stand here among people who care deeply about truth, secular values, science, and public service grounded in evidence and ethics. I was thrilled to receive this invitation because I get to talk about something I rarely share openly, that I'm an atheist. For a long time, speaking about atheism in politics was considered taboo. Maybe it still is in some circles, but I think we're at a point where people are ready for real conversations about what values actually guide us. And for many of us, those values are grounded not in religion, but in reason, compassion, science, and justice. I recently ran for Congress here in Sacramento, challenging the entrenched 81-year-old Doris Matsui. I've worked and volunteered in politics and for other causes off and on for the past 20 years. But it wasn't ambition that brought me into this work, it was grief. In 2011, I lost my mom to colon cancer after 8 years. Those years of anticipatory grief changed the course of my life. I became a volunteer advocate for colon cancer research and prevention, flying to DC every March for Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month to speak to members of Congress, and I loved it. Despite the reason I was there, I found purpose in turning pain into action. I was good at it too. At home in Sacramento, I continued to volunteer for Democratic campaigns, knocking on thousands of doors, and supported long-shot candidates. I wasn't doing it for a paycheck or a title. I did it because I cared and because I believed people like me needed a seat at the table. And then 10 years ago, my cats and I finally moved to Washington, D.C. from Sacramento because I wanted to help fix a broken healthcare system, not because I dreamed of running for office, but because I didn't want anyone else to go through what my family went through with my mother's cancer. Recently, I worked as an organizer, making thousands of calls for the Harris campaign. I wasn't surprised when Trump won again. Organizers on the ground were raising red flags, but the campaign wasn't listening. Then I saw Doris Matsui's new campaign logo for 2026 pop up on Facebook. I was stunned. Did she, a millionaire, out of touch with her district and everyday people, not think she helped create the conditions for Trump to win again? I looked for a progressive challenger to support with all of my experience. There wasn't one. A political friend said, "Why not you?" I'd been encouraged to run for years, but I'm someone who lives with what my doctor calls off-the-charts anxiety. I also have ADHD. Public speaking terrifies me. I am terrified right now, wondering if I'm speaking too fast or if I'll pass out. But after a few months, I filed. I felt like I had to with all of my lived experiences not represented in Congress yet. And then I waited another month to see if anyone else would step up, and no one did. And then I dropped a campaign. But running for Congress as a working class renter is no small task. Even though I knew how to run a campaign, I couldn't self-fund or find enough time. I was working, and I didn't have a team of consultants or donors. I had some volunteers, friends, and a lot of hope and urgency. But even then, others are busy struggling to survive in the richest country in the world, and finding time to help or money to donate can become burdensome, especially for a long-shot candidate. After 3 months, I learned the more prominent progressive candidate would finally enter the race. I ended my campaign and threw my support behind her. That is my Vang, by the way. The moment I stepped back, I felt a huge wave of relief. The stress I'd been carrying in my body, gone. That alone told me something about how broken our system is. But I was angry all over again and bitter The major newspaper in Sacramento, the Sacramento Bee, didn't even mention my campaign when reporting on the new candidate. And I used to work at the Bee because I wasn't viable, not a candidate who had any business running for Congress, yet they were frustrated with the incumbent for continuing to run. Our electoral system doesn't allow someone like me, a state worker, caregiver, gun violence survivor, union organizer, daughter of a disabled Vietnam veteran, healthcare advocate, Sacramento State graduate, and fifth-generation Sacramentan, to run for office without needing a personal fortune. We talked about wanting working-class people running in office, but the truth is the system is designed to keep us out. That said, I'm not going anywhere. I had the political courage to challenge a dynasty. Doris Matsui succeeded her husband, Bob Matsui, after he died in office 20 years ago, and he held that seat since 1979. Not even those on the bench with the name recognition and war chests had the courage to challenge her because they want her eventual endorsement, scared to rock the boat. It was the hardest for me to run. I like to think I brought attention to that imbalance and to the failures of the Democratic establishment. But let's be honest, establishment Democrats helped create the conditions that allowed Trump to rise and thus the greater threat of Christian nationalism. And we need people willing to say that out loud. One thing voters told me over and over was that they appreciated my authenticity. I wasn't trying to be polished, I was being real. I was telling the truth, and I had the resume to back it up. So yes, when I was writing my campaign bio, I included the word atheist. I did pause for a moment, but just a moment, and then I put it in, because it's the truth. I was baptized at Fair Oaks Presbyterian Church, just in case, as my mom would say. She took me to Sunday school while she attended the main service. I was full of questions, too many probably. I never did the homework. We were supposed to find Bible verses to share. I missed that memo. I was busy gluing cotton balls onto construction paper shaped like lambs. My dad never came. He was raised Lutheran in a small Minnesota town, but became agnostic after Vietnam. He remembered church leaders being cruel and judgmental, and he wanted nothing to do with that. One Sunday, my mom said we weren't going back. The church had allowed a Republican state senator to speak, and a man she strongly disliked, who would later become a disgraced congressman. That was the end of church for us. In high school, I was religion curious. My two good friends were Mormon and Catholic. I asked them what they thought about each other's religions. They basically said it was a crapshoot, that one would be right and the other wrong. Then a beloved Mormon student died in a car accident just before graduation. My Catholic friend said, God just wanted her back. She was too pure for this world. It just didn't make sense to me. Then one day at UC Davis, I sat down to eat in the Commons. A fellow student who looked like the skateboarding slacker from the movie Clueless sat across from me, and we started talking about religion, as one does. He told me he was an atheist. He said it made life more beautiful to him because this was all we had. And that moment really stuck with me. He's probably forgotten all about it, but maybe that's what planted the seed, though. If this is the only life we have, of course we should fight to make it better. I'm not waiting for people to suffer through life and find comfort in an afterlife. I believe that mindset gives some people permission not to act. We can't wait because the suffering is happening here and now. When I first moved to DC, I interned for a congressman. I went to a lot of events, mostly for the free food because interns weren't paid then. One of the most memorable was hosted by a secular organization. Congressman Jim Himes and even a Republican joined in. This was before Trump, when bipartisanship around secularism felt more possible. In 2018, Congressman Jamie Raskin and Jared Huffman formed the Congressional Freethought Caucus. It's still all Democrats, and there are currently no open atheist members of Congress, but it matters that it exists. The fact that I could run for office and not once get asked about my religion tells me we're making progress, but we need to keep pushing. People are still encouraging me to run again this cycle, and the potential passage of Proposition 50 has created opportunities for new campaigns. And maybe I will, but I will still need that money and the time to run a formidable campaign. In the meantime, I've launched a podcast called Disruptor Politics, focused on grassroots candidates and the influence of money in politics. Because that's the thing, it's not that we don't have great candidates, it's that the system doesn't make space for them. We need people in office who've lived real lives, who've cared for a sick parent, who've worked 2 jobs, jobs that don't come with security, who know what it's like to feel left out of the conversation. We need people in office who actually fight like this is the only life we have to make it more beautiful for everyone. We also need more people willing to speak out against the rise of Christian nationalism in our courts, in our legislatures, and yes, in this administration. We are watching religious extremism dictate public policy, strip away rights, and harm vulnerable communities. If we don't speak up now, when will we? So I just want to say thank you again for giving me this platform and for being here today. Free thought matters, truth matters, science matters, and secular voices must be at the table, especially now. I may not be in office yet, but I'm not going anywhere. I could become the first out atheist in Congress, and I'll still be loud, I'll still show up, and still believe that we can build a country grounded in reason, compassion, science, and justice for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
That was my first big speech ever.
No, wasn't she amazing? You did that, girl. And not if, but when you get into Congress.